Lamar and Zoolander, take one, action.
Thank you very much. All right. Okay. All right, here we go. Yo, what do they call me? They call me Devin Zoolander. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. Yeah, they call me Devin Zoolander. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. And I look good on camera. You know I look good on camera. Yo, what's actually my bad. I always do this with the beat. Let me get the right beat going on right here. Okay. It's all good. It's all good. Let's see. Okay, here we go right here. Here we go. Okay. Yes, here we go. Yeah. Yo, what's up? It's your homie, Devin Zoolander, coming all the way live from my domicile. And today is a very special day because I reached out to some of my followers on Instagram earlier because I realized that there had been a drought between my last interview and my next interview. So what I did was I reached out and just, cast my rod out there and see who would take the bait and ask who would like to be on the show. And to my greatest surprise, it was my homie, my brother, my friend, a fellow coach at the Pittsburgh Flag Football League. And he said, he just put his hand up and he put up the dark skin hand because he's dark skinned like me. And we represent that. And I appreciated that. So we were able to work it out. My schedule works with his and now he's here. This is someone that is an advocate for mental wellness, just making sure that you're checking in with yourself, making sure that you're doing your own personal inventory so that you can go on and be the excellent person that you were destined to be. And he's someone that you do a lot of different things, but I ain't going to butcher your intro anymore. So without further ado, please put your hands together for my homie, the one and only Lamar Russ.
Hey, what's going on? The Devin Zoolanders, the Devins. We got to figure out a name for the fan club.
Yeah. We definitely do got to figure out a name for the squad. Yeah.
Appreciate you having me on today, man.
Oh, no problem, man. It's a true honor to be here with you, to be in, you know what it's like to build something from the ground up and to promote it out there and to constantly post stuff and, who would be interested. Like, yo, my homegirl, she doing a salsa class in Penn Hills. Come through. Brothers, I'm telling you, the ladies is fine. People will stiffen you. Me.
Yeah.
My bad.
Exactly.
Then it's like, yo, my brother, like I got this job for you, man. I'm telling you, man, we got interviews going on. Like it could really help you to build your professional portfolio. Then crickets. And you're constantly doing stuff. And just tell me, what is that like for you when you're trying to build something and it just doesn't feel like it's gaining any traction?
I mean, originally stuff like that used to bother me because, you go out there, you're expecting to be, I'm going to go ahead and cast my rod and get catches all day, right?
Right.
100% success rate, and that's just not realistic. I kind of learned early on. I was teaching, I did coaching, I worked at a community center. And one of the things that I really learned early on is that you're not going to reach every kid, right? Mm-hmm. So just learning that and looking at it from a standpoint like, all right, I'd work with, I don't know, let's say 60 kids. You're not going to reach all 60 of them. If I could reach 2 of those kids, to me, that was like a plus. When you get to adults, I mean, that success rate is probably less than that. With adults, it's a lot tougher. Mm-hmm. But I do it just to say, not to say that I just went through the motions per se, but to say that I did it. So when you get that person, oh, you didn't tell me that you had I did. I mean, I posted up on the same platform that you see when I had a birthday party. Or
I hit you directly.
Correct.
And you still ain't show up.
Yeah. So I kind of just do my part in that way because even though some people may not come, they still see it. Right. And the idea behind it is just motivation, number one, and just showing that there's other things that, that's going on in the community besides going to the bar and having a drink. As a black person, I think our representation should be more than just entertainment.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Entertainment is big, don't get me wrong, but there's other avenues for us. So I'm a big advocate of just trying to push other things. I do whitewater rafting and freaking rock climbing and hiking and everything.
Right.
I think that as Black people, we got to make sure that we're multifaceted, which feeds into, you know, your just your mental health. Because if you're only one track and, you know, you start getting to a point where like your life is starting to hit you hard, if you only have one thing that makes you feel good, you may not have access to that thing. So if the bar or the club or, you know, the gym even is the only things that you have to make you feel good, what if it snows that day? What if it's snowing all week? What if it's cold or you're just sick? You got to have other things to fall back on.
Yeah.
So making sure that you have a multitude of things. I post a lot of statuses just about like, hey, what do you do for your self-care day? You know, as Black men, there's stuff that we don't even consider, you know, pedicures, manicures, skincare, just going to a barber shop just to go.
Yeah.
You know, just basic stuff that I think a lot of women do a lot of that stuff. But when a guy thinks about this, it gets this kind of a feminine term to it. And you're just like, nah, we can do the same thing.
Right. It's stigmatized.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I thank you for just giving me that piece of advice, because I think it's easy when you're looking at ultra successful people and they say things like trust the process, and they say things like it's about the journey, not the destination. Oh, you saying that from like, you know, you Mark Zuckerberg or you Gary V or whoever you are, or Charlemagne, and I hear what you're saying, but down here in the trenches, sometimes that message for a person like me that's trying to start up, it doesn't always resonate. So I appreciate hearing it from someone like you, because I have to say that you are definitely one of the, I mean, I admire, there's a lot of Black men that I see like where I kind of like look up to, and I respect what they're doing. But I would say out of all of them, you are definitely one that's near the top for me, just because I see what you're doing as a single father. I see what you're doing for the Pittsburgh Flag Football League as a coach. And to me, just once I saw the mental health thing was something that I didn't initially know about you. And that's something that I learned about you by way of social media. So I guess that would be a good way for us to segue into you just telling me, what has your journey been like in trying to maintain and improve your own mental wellness? When did it start? And what are some of the ups and downs that you've encountered in trying to be mentally fit?
Okay. First of all, I want to thank you for that, man, because as an adult, we're not very, we don't get thanks that often. Right?
Nah.
My kids thank me here and there, but they kind of have to do it by default. So it doesn't feel as good coming from somebody who doesn't actually use my money.
Right.
So it's like I'm paying for that thank you.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's like your boss, on Boss's Day, people buy stuff for their boss. I'm like, you're kind of buying it with their money when you think about it, right?
Right.
So it's one of those things. But
yeah.
My mental health journey for myself. So one of my really good friends, Jessica Gurley, she's a therapist, and she just reached out to me one day about just doing the photo shoot and things like that. And at that point, you know, I had already started kind of down my mental health kind of path. The history behind it is my dad committed suicide when I was 13. My dad was every bit of the quote unquote, you know, stereotypical masculine man. So when he committed suicide, I don't think many people seen it coming. But then as I got older, you know, I started kind of noticing some of the things that he probably was going through. I didn't have a chance to really talk to him, but things that I was probably going through as well. So I started to kind of focus on it. Like, all right, obviously I've seen the end result if you don't take care of your mental health. So I wanted to make sure that I didn't end up the same way. So I had to be very strategic just about, you know, how I spent my downtime, because that's really where it happens at. So for me, just wanting to do different stuff and just seeing my community as well. You know, I came from Duquesne, which isn't, you know, an affluent area of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, not at all.
I love Duquesne to death, but you know, there's a lot of people walking around there depressed, ran through and things like that. So for myself, I just didn't want to be that. I didn't want to look like where I was from. I didn't want to look like I just had a hard life. You know, you see some people that are like 22 years old and you're like, jeez, man, you just had a hard life.
Yeah.
So for me,
how old are you, by the way?
40.
40.
Yeah.
Really? I didn't know you were 40, man. When did you turn 40?
This year, August. Yep, August 5th, turn 40.
Okay, man. Well, my bad for missing that, but happy belated birthday, man.
Thanks,
Let's
man.
let me see. Yellow's a plus. Okay, let's clap it up for 40.
The big 4-0, man.
That's right, the big 4-0, all up in there.
Yeah,
All right,
man.
stop that. All right.
Yeah, the big 4-0, man. So that was, that's a huge accomplishment for myself as well, just making it to 40. But just still being able to be active at 40 was a big thing for me. My dad died roughly around 35, but I mean, this man was in tip-top shape. I mean, he still had a six-pack, I believe.
Wow.
So for me, I mean, he set a very, very, very low. I mean, the bar was high.
Was he an athlete as well?
He was an athlete as well.
Okay.
He boxed. Like, my dad was in the Army as well, so he boxed while he was in the Army. So I remember going to go watch my dad actually fight. So when people be like, "Man, my dad will beat you," I can actually tell you,
right? You can say that
my
with
dad,
100% confidence.
Oh man, the confidence that I had as a kid to say that to somebody else was just.
Let me ask you: does Jalen have that same confidence?
Jaden definitely has that same confidence.
Okay.
He's seen me in mode, so
okay. Just making sure.
Yeah, he's seen me in mode. So,
Okay.
Yeah, he definitely he had a cheese on his face one day, and I was like, all right, you'll never see dad like that again. But
Right.
If I can help it.
Got you.
But yeah, the mental health component. So Jessica Gurley did the T-shirt. She has the mental health T-shirt. So make sure you guys go out to, I think it's mentalhealth.us, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Mental health T-shirts.us, but I'll have to post it up.
Yeah, once we get that official thing, we can put it on the screen. Yeah.
And I thought that was it was great. And then the fact that she even asked me to do it and not really even knowing my background around it. So I disclosed the background about my dad, committing suicide, and it just next thing I know, I'm posting up everything online, and she did a project where we created videos, so I was able to kind of create a video talking about why I'm really an advocate for mental health. I just think that it's something that is just so underrated in the Black community, and things that are normalized. Ironically enough, one of my friends today, I had posted up something about depression. And there's this misconception that depression is just being sad, and it's not. There's clinical depressed people that it's a chemical imbalance, and they can't help it but to be sad. Completely different than, man, I had a bad week, a bad month, a bad day. That's just life. Life, you're going to have your ups and downs. That's part of life. But some people, it's uncontrollable. It's like anxiety as well. There's things that people just can't control. So it's not that simple. But in the Black community, some of us have been through so much that we just normalize trauma. So you're just sitting there, and I used to do the same thing. I mean, I was 14 years old. My best friend got killed, right? So death was something I was just used to, When I got to college, my roommate, I mean, he had no idea. He had never seen anybody, a teenager, die. So when I told him, because I had a shirt that had, R.I.P. Beanie on, and he's like, "Who's Beanie?" I was like, "Oh, it's my friend." He's like, "How did he die? Did he have cancer?" Now, if I said that to a Black kid, the first thing we think of is, did he get shot?
Yeah.
But he thought cancer. And that's when I knew. I was like, man, different worlds, man.
Yeah.
Like, the first thing I think of is he got shot. There's not even a doubt in my mind when people say that. That's the first thing I think of.
Because at least with cancer, it's like your humanity is still intact. People are able to hopefully come by, wish you well. They know what you're going through. They know that you're slowly fading away. But at least there can be moments of comfort. You can shot is just like a wild animal in the street, like just executed. So I could see why that could be. That could be like a shock to your system, not so much because obviously the first shock was that your friend was murdered, but then, I'm sorry, how did your...
Yeah, he was murdered.
Okay. I wanted to make sure I got that right. But so that's the first shock, but then the second shock is like, wow, like I'm talking to this person who isn't from my community, and their mind goes to a different place than mine does.
Yeah. Yep. They went through like a natural cause, and unfortunately for a lot of kids in the Black community, especially in rundown, low-income communities, right? First thing we think about is, he got shot. We're shocked if it's not, somebody's like, so-and-so got shot. They post him up on Facebook. We just think he died because he got shot. But sometimes it's like, oh, no, he died in a car accident. And sometimes that gives us comfort, which is weird. And that kind of showed me that, man, we really normalize the trauma, man. Where we really think that, oh, that's not that bad because I've been through X, Y, Z. And it's the weirdest thing. Like we almost wear it on our sleeves sometimes.
So let me pivot real quick because I like where you're going. What I want to ask you as a father of 2 children, correct?
Yep.
Okay. But do you have a
niece and nephew?
Right. I was about to say, because I see you with a lot of kids.
I always have a lot of kids. So it's not even just my niece and nephew, extended family, cousins.
Got you. But 2 biological are yours. Well, I guess they're all biologically related, but whatever. Got it. So anyway, you have 2 kids. What I'm wondering about, because we're talking about black pain. Get it right. We're talking about black pain. We're talking about black trauma. We're talking about people. We're talking about normalizing it. I wanted to ask you, as someone that is in Duquesne, that knows what you grew up around, know what your kids are sometimes exposed to, no matter how great the environment is inside your 4 walls, when they walk out and they have to catch the bus or you have to take them to school, they're going to see something different. Then that's compounded by the music. And don't get me wrong, the way we grew up, we had the same thing as far as, okay, is gangster music, people talking about shooting, but I don't know, for me, and here's what I want you to do. I want you to talk about your experience growing up with the music that came from our people, like gangster rap and all that kind of music. And what was the difference between when you were younger without social media and you were hearing it versus your kids hearing it today? And after saying the difference, what do you do as a parent to help prepare them for that so that they don't normalize black pain?
Okay. Number one, growing up, listening to music. At first, I didn't necessarily internalize it and actually idolize those people. For me, most of the representation for me, especially for a black kid, was my dad, and I looked up to him. He's this 6'2", 235-pound man, boxing and knocking people out and jogging like he was like a He-Man. Once he died, though, you start looking for people that kind of look like you and make you kind of feel like, oh, I want to be like him. So for a lot of us black kids, that's normally athletes and rappers now, right? Like back then, rappers were just starting to come into a mainstream kind of movement. Probably the biggest one at the time for me was Master P and that whole movement. Because before that, there were some rappers here and there, but Master P and them kind of took a wave where they were dropping albums like every other week.
Left and right. Yeah.
And then DMX came out not too shortly after that, and that was a whole nother movement, man. I mean, he was multi-platinum selling. He was in movies, like mainstream movies.
And when he dropped, he did 2 albums in 1 year, and they both soared up the charts,
So really not understanding the impact of that music at the time, because I was just listening to the lyrics. But once I got older, I'm 40 years old, never been married, never been engaged. I started looking back at how I operated in my 20s. One of the things that I noticed that in my 20s is that some of the things that I did in the way that I operated was almost like I was a drug dealer or a rapper, and I wasn't. Just from listening to the music, some of the terms they said, I operated like that. And some of it was because, growing up in a community where the majority of the people who are on a pedestal were drug dealers. So when you were growing up in Duquesne and somebody says, somebody's name and it kind of came with clout attached to that name. And if you were a family member of theirs, you got kind of a pass in high school. People didn't mess with you. Sometimes you got some clout in sports just because, they think you're tough. And that's unfortunate, man. So, you could be a smart kid walking through the hallways of Duquesne, but you don't feel like you have a future as a drug dealer's brother. Just think about that. So for me, it kind of clouded my judgment a little bit. My mom kept me on track, but I think the biggest thing for me, my influences were my friends. My mom was very strategic about who I could hang out with, which after a certain age, I don't care how great of a parent you are. I think that the influence for a lot of us is your friends. All my friends, we ended up all going to college, whether or not we finished or not, but we all left Duquesne, went to college and seen quote unquote greener pastures. So a lot of us were doing okay for ourselves. But that wasn't my whole graduating class or a lot of people from Duquesne at that point. But my specific friend group that's what happened. But my mom was very strategic about that. So there were certain friends, my mom would say it, I don't like you hanging out with them. Now, that didn't stop me from hanging out with them, but in the back of my brain, I would always be like, why don't you want me hanging out with them? And she would identify certain traits somewhere, you know, motherly instinct, and I wouldn't hang out with them. So fast forward it with my kids, specifically with my son, I know that the music has a huge influence on them, because now, not only are these rap stars and entertainers, you can actually see their lives. They're watching them on YouTube. They're watching them on Instagram, TikTok. So these people are personalities now. So it's not like they're watching Denzel Washington, right, on a movie and only seeing him once every year on a movie. They're seeing these people every single day. And they look like some kid in their class. So now they're associating that lifestyle with Black lifestyle. Like, it used to be that it was just entertainment, but now hip hop lifestyle was considered Black culture. And it's unfortunate because a lot of that stuff is just fake. But you have these kids that can't identify it. Right. So I'm very strategic with the music my kids listen to, specifically boys, because you know, hip hop is a male dominant culture. So when you see DMX rattling off 100 girls' names on the track,
right,
girls may not think anything of it. Oh, that's my song. That's my song. But me sitting over there like, dang, she must be cool with that, because that's her song. So she's cool with this married man on this track naming all these different women. So for me, it kind of gave me a false sense of reality. I know a ton of women, they say, I don't even listen to the lyrics. We do, because those are male rappers saying those lyrics that y'all are, you know, idolizing.
And right. And we internalize that. We're paying attention, because for those of us that like women and that want to gain their affection, especially when you're a young man and you're coming of age, like you pay attention to what they like, and you try to see, is there a way where I can take what they like, apply it to myself, and somehow make myself a little bit more desirable for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, couldn't tell you how many dudes are walking around with mystical braids back in the day, man. And you know, thought they were DMX and barking at people, and all of a sudden dudes is walking around with their shirts off with pit bulls. Like, wasn't it coincidence that, you know, the most successful rappers at those time, people were dressing like? Yeah, I mean, I went through a whole phase. I dressed like 50 Cent almost. I had to fit it with the.
And did you have the was the undershirt with?
Oh, absolutely.
The G unit.
Yeah, muscles was popping. Then I was in college playing football.
With
man,
the do-rag.
Had the do-rag under the fitted.
Yeah.
Had the little G unit tank tops. Yeah, absolutely, man.
Wow, that's funny.
So, you know, the big 30-inch chain and everything. So looking back on that, seeing how much that influenced just my day to day. I mean, it's just it's stupid of me to not think that it still doesn't happen at a higher level now, that these entertainers are now actual personalities in the household. I mean, people are watching them just go to the bathroom.
You know, that reminds me of that saying, never meet your heroes, because what it makes me think about is how when we were coming up, we were able to, like, kind of, even though we were still being impacted by the music, I think we were able to kind of see them more as entertainers, because it was more like we were at the concert and they're on stage and we're in the nosebleed section. We're just happy to be there. But it's kind of like now, because everything is just so in your face, now it's kind of like, oh yeah, I know every single thing about them, which honestly, for me, I'm realizing that actually has become a bit of a turnoff, because the mystery is gone. And that's why when I see you can say what you want about Jay-Z and Beyonce, but because they lay low so much, they allow conversations to be created every day about them, but they never really give any validity to it. You keep talking, but they never get knocked off their square, because they're not playing social media games as far as, oh, I'm going to say something disrespectful in a DM, or I'm going to go back and forth. Somebody said Nas was better than me. I'm Jay-Z. Somebody said Nas was better. I'm going to jump in the comments. Like, they don't do that. So you don't see like some of the tomfoolery that we see with other celebrities that we would never think we would see.
Never.